You were promised a strategic Bitcoin reserve, no new wars, and a golden age. You got Bitcoin developers in handcuffs. You got an American resident, a tax-paying U.S. citizen facing 5 years in prison for a privacy feature on his phone. You got Big Bitcoin building industry consortiums with the same suits who used to call this thing a scam. You got the White House profiting off shitcoin scams, and you got what I will argue is possibly the most insane corruption in modern American political history, and it's happening in plain sight while everyone argues about whether we should be grateful. Did we say thank you? We're still operating under the belief that we have rights. And maybe, just maybe, we need to start operating with the mindset that we actually have none. Because while our loving overlords are laughing at us, they're going to find out who laughs last and why every single one of their efforts to regulate, capture, and control Bitcoin will metaphorically be used to paint the walls. The fiat system fuels statism. It wears many uniforms, but its method never changes. Manufacture a crisis. Don't let it go to waste. Seize economic rights. Call theft justice. Oh, and hold on, you didn't think this was some limp bearish episode, did you? Maybe you didn't know, but state ineptitude and tyranny are not bearish catalysts for Bitcoin. They are the ultimate bullish catalyst, always have been. Big show today, 4 stories. Here's what you're going to understand at the end of all this. 1, why Bitcoin and open source developers are being prosecuted right now and what that tells us. 2, why the FBI is building a literal pre-crime machine pointed at you. 3, the Clarity Act, line by line, the good, the bad, and the absolutely shameless. 4, why every attack on Bitcoin is proof Bitcoin has already won. Well, welcome to the golden age, my friends. I'm Rustin. Buckle up. Sunday.
You see that without a central bank control, the value of that currency depends upon the users of that currency. And why is Bitcoin growing so fast? Because it's getting more users. More people are believing. If I do a transaction with a credit card, I have to put in my name, my address, my credit card number, the code on the back, my billing address. Well, that takes 5 or 10 minutes, especially for someone my age. But with Bitcoin, it's 15 seconds. Give me your wallet address, here's the amount, done. Once you see the facility of cryptocurrencies, once you see how fast they are transacted, then suddenly fiat currencies, credit cards, central banks make no sense whatsoever.
Maybe it's too.
When they start using these things, suddenly governments are going to start losing income tax revenues. And they're going to panic, and they're going to say, this is against the law. But how do you stop something that cannot be stopped? I mean, this is not something unique to America where you can just shut it down. I mean, I can use the Tor browser or the Onion browser and access Bitcoin wallets all over the world, and no one will ever know. The government does not have enough enforcement personnel to ever stop Bitcoin. So they're going to have to face reality, find some other way to raise revenues. This is a fact.
All right, here we go. Before the stories, quick personal note. Over the years, I've got to know a lot of people in the space, developers, privacy researchers, cypherpunks who build tools, not because they want to get rich, but because they actually believed financial privacy is a human right. It's like freedom of speech, and it's not a premium feature. It is it is the system. And look, I'll be honest with you, part of me bought into the idea that maybe this administration would be different, that maybe the machine had changed. Then I looked at the data, and the data doesn't lie. So let's get to it. Story 1. Keon Rodriguez and William Lonergan Hill, co-founders of Samourai Wallet, an open source Bitcoin privacy wallet that used mixing technology, CoinJoin to give users what the Fourth Amendment already guarantees, the right to transact privately. In November 2025, Keon got 5 years in federal prison, Lonergan 4 years. They pled guilty after the DOJ hit them with money transmitting and money laundering conspiracy charges. $237 million in alleged criminal proceeds moved through their platform. I don't know, what about JP Morgan, Epstein's banker, and the U.S. Postal Service, which moves billions in criminal proceeds every year? Nobody's arresting the mailman. But now, Tornado Cash, Roman Storm, Ethereum Mixing Service, the jury convicted him on 1 count out of 3, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business. They deadlocked on the 2 most serious charges. Yeah, so 12 average Americans looked at the case, could not agree that he was guilty on any of their bigger claims. But convicted is convicted, and the message being sent to every open source developer in this country is, build privacy tools? Go to jail. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't just about these 2 cases. The legal theory being employed here argues that if criminals use your software, you're liable for what they did with it. You don't have to know about a specific crime. You just have to have built it. What if someone gouges someone's eye out with a spoon? Then what? I mean, if you think about it, by this standard, by the exact legal theory, Satoshi himself would be in a federal cell right now. Story 2, and this one is genuinely wild. Meet Samuel Tunick, Atlanta resident, American citizen, returning from vacation, January 24th, 2025, gets pulled into secondary inspection at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport by Customs and Border Protection. All right, here we go. This is nuts. Why? Well, 3 hours before the plane landed, a Homeland Security agent sent an email with his name, his photo, flagging him to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. His crime? Get a load of this. He was associated with Defend the Atlanta Forest, the movement opposing Cop City, a state racketeering case against 61 people tied to that movement, had already been dismissed by a Georgia judge. CBP pulls him in, demands his phone, no warrant. Their legal theory, he hadn't technically crossed the border yet, so rights suspended. Attorney denied multiple times. He gave him a passcode. The officer typed it. The phone went dark, flashed, restarted, empty. God, that had to be so hilarious to have felt what that guy felt in that moment, right before the nightstick came right across his face. Pure bliss. Tunick was running GrapheneOS, a hardened, privacy-focused Android OS used by journalists, activists, and security researchers worldwide. Among its features, a duress pin, a second passcode that, when entered, triggers an irreversible wipe. No confirmation, no warning, just gone. GrapheneOS documents this feature publicly and explicitly names travelers facing border searches as a use case. The officer typed the duress code, the phone erased itself. Samuel Tunick now faces up to 5 years in prison for property destruction of his own phone, under a statute that requires the governments to prove it had lawful authority to seize the device, which, with no warrant and no counsel present, is deeply contested. The case is still in litigation, and we're going to be watching it closely, but let me be clear about what's happening here. A man faces federal prison for how his phone was designed, not for what was on it, not for some crime he committed, for a feature on his phone the government didn't like. And honestly, awesome. They're not just coming for your Bitcoin, they're coming for your phone, your passcode, your Fourth Amendment rights, and allegedly, they think those rights are optional. Now, story 3, earlier this year, reported by Reason Magazine based on documents they obtained, the FBI's Terrorist Screening Center put out a request for vendors. They want an AI system, not to catch criminals, to predict who might become one. Here's the actual language from their procurement request. Quote, the solution must leverage existing enterprise datasets to develop where additional relevant information may be derived across federated systems. Feed it everything and tell us who to watch before they even do anything. The Terrorist Screening Center, which runs the no-fly list and the terror watch list, has been quietly reoriented under National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, NSPM 7, explicitly lists, and I need you to hear this, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and many other various categories protecting the forest are now threat categories the entire national security apparatus is focusing on. Anti-capitalism. Okay, so if you question the fiat Ponzi that's been running since 1971, think it needs to end, and you're right, you are now, by the current administration's own definition of national security, a potential subject for a pre-crime AI. The watch list already has nearly 2 million names on it. The Boston Marathon bombers were on it. The Pulse nightclub shooter was on it. It demonstrably doesn't work for stopping real threats, but it works great for one other thing, making people afraid to speak, build, organize, and opt out. FBI Director Kash Patel bragged at a March 2026 congressional hearing about a double-digit increase in biometric capabilities and double-digit increase in intelligence production. He's proud of this. The state that claims to hate tyranny is building a digital panopticon in real time with your tax dollars, and allegedly, always allegedly, they think you won't notice. Speaking of everything they know about you, your transactions, your device, your political views, your watch list status, allegedly. Well, let's get you the tools to protect yourself from Skynet with our friends over at the Bitcoin Way. The Bitcoin Way was built to solve this exact problem. Ironclad self-custody, proper hardware setup, your own node, full on-chain verification, privacy phones, Plan B residency for the people who are completely serious about sovereignty. These treasury companies are failing because they reintroduced third-party trust into a trustless system. The Bitcoin Way does the opposite. It removes the counterparty and it makes you the bank. Book your free 30-minute consultation today. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the show notes and become a sovereign individual today. Story 4, the main event, the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, HR 3633, the most consequential crypto regulation bill in U.S. history. And I'm going to be an honest broker here. We're not cheerleading because there are things in this bill worth acknowledging. And there are things in this bill that should make you completely furious. Let's start with the good. For the first time in a statutory, legally binding way, this bill defines Bitcoin as a digital commodity regulated by the CFTC, not the SEC. That's not a small thing. That ends the decade-long regulatory gray zone where Gary Gensler's SEC could theoretically reach for Bitcoin as an unregistered security, though we know how Gary viewed things. He was surprisingly based. This bill says Bitcoin is a commodity in law, like gold. The bill also creates legal frameworks for DeFi developers. It defines when software constitutes a regulated intermediary and it doesn't, which would, in theory, make it significantly harder to prosecute developers for writing open source code. The Samourai situation under Clarity's framework becomes legally murkier for prosecutors. It kills regulation by enforcement, the model where you find out your product's illegal only after you've been sued. And it passed the House with real bipartisan support and cleared 2 Senate committees. The direction of travel is legitimate. I will give it that. Now the bad. 3 Senate blocking issues, none of them trivial. Problem 1, the ethics standoff. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand tied her vote to an ethics provision. Why? Because Trump's 2025 financial disclosures show his family earned $1.4 billion from shitcoin and crypto ventures in a single year. $635 million from Trump Coin, nearly $800 million from World Liberty Financial, his family's little DeFi project. The most consequential crypto regulation bill in history is being written by an administration with $1 billion personal financial stake in its outcome. And the original bill had virtually no provisions preventing sitting presidents or members of Congress from profiting directly from the industry that they are regulating. That's not an oversight, that's a feature. Last week, the White House claimed a historical ethics deal was struck. Democrats said they hadn't seen it, and that's where we are today. Problem 2, national security gaps. Senator Mark Warner conditioned his vote on stronger DeFi oversight, specifically to prevent North Korea, Iran, and Russia from laundering billions through DeFi protocols. And just this week, July 25th, the Bank Policy Institute issued a statement saying the latest version of the bill still doesn't close these gaps. North Korea stole an estimated $1.5 billion in crypto in Q1 of 2025 alone through DeFi. The bill, as written, may enable it. Problem 3, the bank deposit war. 6 major banking associations, go figure, issued a joint statement this week against provisions that might allow stablecoins to pay yield, which they say would siphon bank deposits from local communities. The financial incumbents have enormous lobbying power. The fight isn't over. Now the ugly. Here's why I need you to really listen. Trump's strategic Bitcoin reserve, the one the people celebrated, it's an executive order, not a law, not an act of Congress, not a constitutional amendment, an executive order. which the next president can rescind before their second cup of coffee. Trump himself proved exactly how easy this is when he revoked Biden's executive order 14067 on crypto regulation on his first day in office. The next left-leaning administration, and statistically there will be one, can erase your strategic reserve in about 11 minutes. If we celebrated an executive order as a generational win for Bitcoin, we may have celebrated a bumper sticker. And the Clarity Act itself, even with genuine merits, was designed, pushed, and lobbied for by an administration whose chief executive personally banked $1.4 billion from the industry he's now claiming to regulate, who specifically resisted ethics provisions that would have prevented that conflict, and who is simultaneously running a surveillance state that prosecutes developers and phone owners for using privacy tools. The fiat system wears many uniforms. Right now, it's wearing a Bitcoin flag, and I'd argue that's the most dangerous version. All right, now let me walk you off the ledge and then back. Bear points, then bull points. Bear point 1, the Clarity Act may die in the Senate. Ethics, national security, banking interests. There are 3 separate coalitions that can kill it. If it fails, developers stay in the gray zone. Privacy tools stay prosecutable. Bear point 2, the Bitcoin reserve is legal fiction. Executive orders die with administrations. It is not in statute. It cannot be relied on. Bear point 3, the surveillance infrastructure, pre-crime AI, expanded watch lists, border search doctrine. None of that disappears if Bitcoin wins. These tools, most certainly, we can hypothecate, will be turned on users, node operators, exchanges, and developers with increasing aggression as the financial system perceives Bitcoin as an existential threat to its sick monopoly. Bull point 1, you don't arrest open source developers unless you're scared of what they've built. You don't build pre-crime AI unless you know you cannot stop the behavior through normal law enforcement. This is a desperation signal, not a victory lap. Bull point 2, $150 billion of institutional capital is already in. BlackRock, Fidelity, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, central banks. They do not unbuy 200,000 Bitcoin because an ethics provision failed in the Senate. Bull point 3, Bitcoin's commodity classification, even through executive posture, is a real shift. The SEC is not Gary Gensler's SEC, though I do kind of miss him. And, bald. Bull point 4, every prosecuted developer, every surveilled activist, every wiped phone, every failed privacy law, it pushes more people toward self-custody, toward running nodes, toward GrapheneOS, toward the tools and the mindset that makes them genuinely ungovernable. The state is Bitcoin's single best marketer. Let's bring it home. The Ponzi that's been running since 1971, the fiat system, this financial industrial complex, it has one playbook. Define enemies, criminalize the alternatives, and call every act of self-determination a threat to national security. They did it with gold, outlawed private ownership, confiscated it, called it patriotic. They called it a barbarous relic. They did it with cash, built surveillance architecture around every transaction above $10,000, then $5,000, then $100. Now they're doing it with privacy, with open source code, with phones that have the audacity to protect their owners. And here's what they will never understand. The thing that keeps me structurally, mathematically, permanently bullish. Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO to arrest. Bitcoin doesn't have a server to seize. It doesn't have a headquarters to raid. You can't indict the protocol. You can't imprison math. Keon and Lonergan going to federal prison does not change the 21 million cap. Roman Storm being convicted does not insert a trusted third party into the blockchain. Samuel Tunick facing 5 years does not make a single on-chain transaction traceable for the people who've done the work to protect themselves. And the Clarity Act, with all its corruption, all its conflict of interest stench, all its unresolved Senate fights, even if it fails, even if the next administration revokes every executive order and tries to push Bitcoin back into the dark ages and launches a CBDC, they cannot unring this bell. This is not the state winning. This is the state losing in slow motion and using every tool it has in its disposal to pretend otherwise. The Bank of England isn't warning you about a crash. They're warning you about a transition. And your government isn't arresting developers because it's winning. It's arresting developers because Bitcoin is winning. That's not a crisis, that's a transfer. And always remember, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Stay humble, stack sats, and do not sell your corn to these sons of... Here's the dirty secret about every other Bitcoin-backed lender. They're lending your collateral out. They're rehypothecating it. They're playing the same fractional reserve game the banks play with your Bitcoin. And when the music stops, your stack is gone. Ledden doesn't do that. Their custodied loan product means your Bitcoin sits in cold storage. Never lent out, never touched. That's the Satoshi standard. 8 years, $10 billion in origination, 0 customer Bitcoin lost. Lowest rates in the industry, no hidden fees, no fine print, auto top-up so you never get liquidated by a wick. 0 prepayment penalties, paid off whenever you want. Don't sell your Bitcoin to buy a house, a car, a business. Borrow against it. Keep your stack. Scan the QR or click the link in the description and head over to ledden.io. When you set up your Bitcoin wallet, did you actually plan for real life? Because phones get lost. People forget things, stuff breaks, and eventually, whether you like thinking about it or not, your Bitcoin may need to be passed on to someone else. That's exactly why BitKey makes so much sense. It's like the idiot-proof hardware wallet. BitKey is a self-custody Bitcoin wallet designed around the fact that life happens. There's no seed phrase sitting on a piece of paper that can disappear forever, and there's no single point of failure where one mistake means your Bitcoin is just gone. The new BitKey device even has a touchscreen, so when you're approving something important, you can actually verify what's happening before you approve it. Transactions, recoveries, address changes. You can see it yourself instead of blindly trusting that everything is okay. Recovery and inheritance are built in. Lose your phone, you have a recovery path. Want to make sure your family can access your Bitcoin someday? You can set that up too. No extra subscription, no separate inheritance service, no insanely complicated process that requires a computer science degree and a treasure map. It's just a much more practical way to hold Bitcoin for the long term. Get your BitKey today and use promo code SUNDER to get 10% off. That's it. Get your BitKey. Do it. Do it today. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Let us know in the comments. What do you think about the Clarity Act? Do you trust it? Do you trust the people pushing it? I want to know. And give us a pamp. I love you guys. Catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.